Hey there, my name is Shreya. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to be talking all about everything that I made this year from January until March. This is my first video on this channel, so I figured I would do a quick little introduction about myself. I'm Shreya. I'm 30 years old. I am based in the Bay Area, California, and I've pretty much lived here my entire life, other than college where I went to school in San Diego. But I live and breathe Bay Area basically. I am a Bharatanatyam dancer and instructor. Bharatanatyam is an Indian classical art form that started in the south of India, and I've been learning that since I was 4 years old, and now I teach full-time with my mom and we run our own dance school. And when it comes to my crafting, I started knitting January 2021 like many other people did. I taught myself from YouTube and joined a couple online communities to get my questions and things like that answered. But yeah, I've been knitting a little bit more than 2 years now, and it's been great. And right now I have the test knitting bug, so I really enjoy test knits. I really enjoyed the deadline and the pressure that it gives me to finish things. But yeah, that's a little about me if you didn't know that. And I just want to get right into showing off all the things that I made this Q1. So my goals going into 2023 were first to knit 20,000 yards out of my stash. So I typically knit about like a size 4. So I'm a size large or like a 42-inch bust. And typically, depending on the garment, I'll use anywhere from 1,200 to 1,800 yards. So if I'm looking at it from a garment perspective, I might make 10 to 11 garments, but that's not including t-shirts. That's assuming I'm going to only do long sleeves. And I also really like sock knitting right now. So I've been setting this goal of 20,000 yards out of stash, 1 garment a month, and 8 pairs of socks throughout the entire year. And let's see how we did so far. So the first finished object that I completed is the Shocking Stripes pullover by Tori Yu. So this is that. And I knit this with Sorella yarn mini skeins. So all the stripes are minis from, I think, Spring Tonals. And then the main color is a discontinued yarn, but it's a wool silk nylon blend. And I got it from like a estate sale for like $1 or $2. It was, honestly, it was robbery how cheap I got it, but I really loved how it looks afterwards. I do have a little bit of a gripe with some of the yarn, and I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this particular stripe is bleeding a little bit above and a little bit below. Like none of the other colors do that, but it's just this like darker burgundy reddish purple color. But otherwise, like all of the colors look great. And this is probably one of the sweaters that fits me best. It's a circular yoke. And I think I used about 1,400 yards total. And then I used up all of this light pink skein, and then I had like very little left of this purple one, and then I pretty much had like 4 or 5 grams left of these other 3 colors. Modifications I made from the pattern, one was that I lengthened it. I am pretty tall, I'm 6 feet tall, I have long arms, long torso, so I have to pretty much lengthen any garment that I make, which I usually account for in my yardage estimates. So I lengthened it by 1 stripe, and I lengthened the arms by 2 stripes. And I actually, so I went to India over the winter break, and I brought this project with me thinking, oh yeah, I'll get the yoke and like maybe a little bit more done. And I actually got the entire yoke done and then realized I did the increases wrong. And I ended up with like 100 extra stitches than accounted for. So I had to rip all the way back. Let's say I like got past this stripe. I had to rip all the way back and then like redo it. And that was like, I think I ripped back on January 1st. And then I finished the entire sweater, I think like January 22nd or 23rd. So I think that's like really impressive considering I knit everything except for the neckband in like 3 weeks. Because I think for me, I typically knit a full sweater in about 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the weight of the yarn. So the base yarn is sport weight and the stripes are fingering weight. So it's like essentially like a sport weight garment, but with the stripes being just fingering weight. So yeah, that's Shocking Stripes. I think this is probably one of my favorites that I've made ever. But I haven't made that many garments yet because last year I was just like, I don't know, it took me forever to get through knitting some stuff. So this is probably like my 4th or 5th garment ever, but I think it's like top 5 for sure. So yeah, that was this one. And then next, I made an Oslo hat for my niece, and I don't have that to show because I gave it to her as soon as I finished it. But the Oslo hat is the pattern that I pretty much make every couple months. Like I haven't made them for myself, but I've made 4 so far as gifts, and I'm sure I'll make one eventually for myself. I actually haven't made any hats for myself, and I don't know why that is because I do like wearing hats. It's just that I would rather make myself a garment or socks, and I just feel like a hat is really quick for me to knit, and I'm like, oh, I can just do it whenever. But I do want to make some more hats eventually. Now, the next garment that I finished is sweater number 9. So this is sweater number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I knit it out of Knitting for Olive, and the base color is Terracotta Rose, and the mohair that I held it with is Dusty Rose. So it kind of has like a bit of a marled effect. And this is like my first bulky-ish weight garment. Terracotta Rose, I think, is like a worsted weight yarn. Sorry. The Knitting for Olive heavy merino is like worsted weight, and then the mohair is obviously a lace weight. So together it makes it a more like a bulky weight yarn. And I really like this garment. However, there are some things that I don't like as much. One being that there's no short rows in this garment. I know that My Favorite Things updated this pattern and made like a smaller gauge version that has short rows and it has more shaping. However, I really don't think it would be that hard to modify this pattern, and if I made it again, I would definitely just like add short rows because I think I know how to do that now. The other thing is that this neckband is like really floppy, and I think like what I could do is like thread an elastic through the cast on, or even just like fold it in and like do a really quick whip stitch and make it like a folded collar. But I don't know, it's kind of like stretched out, and like when I wear it, it just like sits like this. If I fold it down, it looks weird because it kind of rolls up on itself. So I think maybe if I did make this again, I would just cast it on and then pick up and do the neckband rather than have this like weird floppy like funnel neck. That being said, I wear this a lot, and I wear this over my dance outfits a lot because it's bulky, so it doesn't really like show through the clothes underneath. So that's this one. It's not size inclusive. I knit it like, I started knitting this last November and I'd already bought the yarn for it, and then I like opened the pattern and I was like, oh, it only goes up to like an XL or an XXL or something. And I know their updated one with the smaller gauge is size inclusive, but My Favorite Things, like a lot of their garments are not size inclusive, especially the things that she released earlier. So it is disappointing. I wish that this type of sweater would be available for more people to be able to wear, but unfortunately it's not the case. So yeah, that's probably another reason why I won't remake this sweater, but it's done now, so I will continue to wear it. Now the wear of this sweater, I think I've worn it since finishing it. I've worn it about like 8 or 9 times maybe, and I don't really have any pilling, which is great because I wear my sweaters. I typically get pills like here immediately, And so luckily I haven't gotten any pills, or if I do, I just kind of pick them off. They're not serious. So yeah, that is the sweater. Moving along. And now we're gonna go through some socks because I have 3 pairs of socks that I finished. Before this year, I wouldn't really have considered myself much of a sock knitter, but I do enjoy socks and I love wearing hand knit socks. I do find when I do like design socks, they become very like precious to me, and I have a hard time wearing them because I don't want to get them dirty. So when I wear my design socks, I wear like another pair of socks underneath. But this is the Oolong socks by Aimee Sher. So it's kind of hard to tell the lace pattern, but it is this like leaf pattern that comes on the sides. And it's very beautiful, and it has a nice eye of partridge heel. And the yarn that I used for this is Sorella Winter Tonals Bunny Slope. I bought this last year, and yeah, I really love it. I've worn this a fair, oh my gosh. I must have stepped on like hot sauce or something because it's like a little bit red on the bottom. So I've worn this a couple times and there is some wear on the bottom. I love them. They're very pretty. However, I'm still trying to figure out my own sock gauge. I wear like a size 11 shoe, so I just assumed I was a large. And this is like the 72 stitch sock. And I just find these a little bit too loose. I don't know if it's the yarn necessarily. I don't know if it's my gauge because I knit this on a 9-inch circular. And I don't know if it's the lace because the lace might have made it open up a bit. But these ones I do find to be a little bit loose. So when I wear socks underneath this sock, it helps them fit a lot better. But yeah, Oolong socks coming at the end of this month. So the next pair of socks I made, I actually started these ones in April of 2021. So I tested these socks for Lauren from A Bee in the Bonnet, and they're the Pyrifera socks. So I really love these socks. They have this, maybe if I do it like this, you can see the design a little bit. They have this cabling or like small cables on the outside and then like almost like a seaweed like texture down the middle, and they're absolutely gorgeous. They are a very time-consuming knit, which is probably why I did one sock for the test knit, and then it took me like almost a year to do the second one. So I finished the first sock by like I think May something 2020. Wait, did I say 21? I meant 22. April 2022, I started this. And then I cast on the second sock for a knit along. I think it's like the Socky Seconds knit along. And I only got the cuff done of the second sock. And then sometime like this year, I think it was like, I think in February, I just kept seeing these socks and I was like, I need them done. They're so close. And that's when I had heard about Hannah Graham talking about the snowball method and finishing the project that has like the least amount left and then working on the next one that has the least amount. And I was like, I just have to do 60 rows and then like I think 80 for the foot, which is like a pretty big sock. If I'm like honest, did I have to do 60 rows of the sock? Because like each repeat was 10 rows. So I was like, okay, I'll do 60 and then I'll do however much I need to do for the foot. The yarn for this is from Miss Babs. My friend Grace, she and like 2 of my other knitting friends, we did like a Secret Santa type of yarn exchange for sock yarn, and she gifted this to me. So the main color is Hitchhiker's Galaxy, I think in the Katadine base. It's just like a superwash merino 80/20 base. And then the contrast color is Hot to Trot, and that's like their BFL base. I think it's Putnam. If I'm wrong, I'll just put something in the bottom. So that's this, and I do have quite a bit of yarn left over from it. I thought that I was going to use up pretty much all of it. If I didn't do contrasting heel, toes, and cuffs, I probably would have used up the entire skein of yarn. However, I now have like, I think 23 grams left of the main color, which is great. So yeah, that's these. I've worn these a couple times and they're wearing really well. These ones, since they're also light color, I get really paranoid about like making them dirty, but you can see kind of like the really pretty stripes, slight stripes, and it's like speckled, not really speckled, but it's beautiful. I love this yarn. This would be something I would totally buy in a sweater quantity, but I don't really need sweater quantities at the moment. I have plenty. One day maybe we'll talk about what I have in my stash, but not today. Okay, and then finally, I made these Quilty cabin socks. So let me get this on the blocker. This sock was a test knit for Aloha from Horse Feather Fiber Arts. So this is what it is. So it has this really cute quilt star motif, and the original ones called for you to hold 2 strands of mohair for the color work, and then the main color is just whatever, it's just like some superwash fingering. When I got the pattern, I had signed up for the largest size because based on the measurement she gave me, that's what I would have signed up for anyways. And then it was an 80 stitch sock. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if that's gonna fit me because I usually wear a 72 stitch. But then I started knitting it, and I originally was gonna use a different color combination, but then I was like, you know what, like maybe I'll just make these for my husband instead. And I started knitting it, and it's my first color work project ever, and at that it's like sock color work. So I made a couple of mistakes here. The first one was that I did this on magic loop, which some of you might be thinking, oh, why is that a mistake? I think for me it was a mistake because there's like a part here where you might be able to see a line. I don't know if you can, but that was where I was catching my floats, and that was also the part where I was switching the needle for the magic loop. So there's like a bit of puckering right there. And the other issue was that I was just like kind of tensioning it a little bit tighter than I might have if I did it on a tiny circular. That being said, the color work is really easy. Now I don't feel that intimidated by it, and I will probably try out color work again on like a larger garment. So the yarn for this is Trekking XXL. It's black, and it has this really cute like primary color tweedy bits throughout. And then the contrast color is a mini skein from Sorella. I don't remember, it might be like winter tonals, it might be spring tonals, but I have like 2 full mini skein sets from her, so I just grabbed this one. Actually, my husband picked the color combination, and I was knitting it and I finished the color work, and then I finished the heel, and I was like, okay, can you try it on? And it didn't go up his heel, and then I tried it on and it like barely went up my heel. So I was like, okay, this is for me now. And so I kept it, and then I knit the foot a little bit shorter than what I normally would have. So because it was so wide, like this is how wide it is. It looks really chubby. So I think that's because of the 80 stitches. And so what I did was I just knit the sock, like instead of stopping like 2.5 inches before to start the decreases, I stopped like 3 or 3.5 inches or something. And so that part like gets like stretched out when I put it on my foot. So I just want to compare this sock to like, let's say this other lace one. Like just, they're so different. Socks are so interesting, figuring out the fit. But yeah, you can definitely tell that, here we go. This black one is like quite a bit shorter than the Oolong ones that I finished. But if you look on the other side, the Oolong ones are so skinny in comparison. So just some things to learn for the next one. I do love these, but for me, this is like a lesson in like understanding my gauge, understanding how to knit color work, and then maybe like learning my tension better for a future color work project. So yeah, those are the 3 pairs of socks that I finished this month. They're January, February, and March. And that for me, that's really impressive because, as I mentioned, it took me like a year to do the second sock of these ones. So yeah. So the last finished object that I have is what I'm wearing today. This is the Gaon cardigan. This is by Soomin or Del Bodre on Instagram. And this has been on my needles for the past 9 weeks, I think. I think I cast this on like right after I finished my shocking stripes. Like I finished that, gauge swatched for this immediately after and cast it on. So this pattern is so many things. 1, it's really well thought out. Like every detail that goes into shaping, goes into sizing, goes into overall fit, Soomin has thought about it. And for someone who is like, this is her first pattern, I just thought there was so much good thought put into it. Now, some things I can tell you about this cardigan. 1, it is a bottom-up cardigan. 2, it's completely ribbed. It's a 3x1 rib stitch all the way throughout. And 3, you do the button band as you go. And 4, it's seamed. So a lot of these things, people might be like, I don't know if I want to knit a full fingering weight cardigan. Well, guess what? I did it. It's very doable. And I'm probably going to make another one because my mom saw me try this on and she immediately was like, okay, I want that. And I was like, Mom, it took me 9 weeks to finish. And she was like, that's fine. I'll just wait till next winter. I was like, okay. So yeah, this cardigan, I knit it out of Holst Garn Super Soft. This cone actually. So I knit it straight from the cone. And then when I got to the sleeves, I just like wound off some from the cone and knit with it. And the shade is in charcoal. So this, as well as the Quilty cabin socks, they're knit with like a dark yarn. And after those 2 garments, I was like, I cannot knit with dark color yarn for a little bit. This one particularly, like counting my stitches, it would be bright daylight. I'd have to put my necklight on and still count because it's like kind of heathered a little bit. Like it has a little bit of like off-white in it. And just like trying to read my knitting was just so hard after some time. And in this pattern, like there's a lot of times where you need to like go a certain amount of inches or rows, and then you have to work on the next step. I mean, I think like the hardest part for me was counting my rows, to be honest, because as I mentioned, dark yarn, slightly fuzzy, and I couldn't really like see them after some time. So I would wear my neck light in the daytime and just like count that way. But it was great. I am really happy with the finished object, and it's probably going to be the most worn garment I have in my wardrobe for a while. Picking out the buttons was really fun too. These buttons are from La Mercerie. I ordered them online and they're like 1-inch buttons. I think they're like, they feel plastic, and I think they're like a some rhino horn, or I don't remember. If I remember, I'll put the link down below for them, but I bought them online and they're very cute. I kind of wanted it to be monochrome. I didn't want any contrast buttons because I wanted it to be as like seamless as possible. And the sleeves fit amazing. I am wearing like a ready to wear cardigan underneath this, and the sleeves are like really nicely tapered and the fit is great. And this is like a drop shoulder fit, so the body is quite nice and loose while the sleeves are nice and tight, which I really appreciate fit wise. I am really glad I made this. That being said, I don't know if I would make another one for a while. Like I think I need to knit on some larger gauges, or I just need to do some like quick gratifying knits. But this one used so much yarn. I think I used like 1,800 or 1,900 yards. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it was worth it. The end product is so worth it. This went from like being a process to a product to a process to a product knit, because there's so many techniques in this that I had never done before. I had done some seaming in another project, but I never seamed as cleanly as I did for this one. And then, yeah, just like, I'm very pleased with my finished object, but it is a grind. Like, it is gonna take quite a long time if you're gonna do it, but it's totally worth it. It was my first time knitting with Holst Super Soft, and it wasn't the most pleasant experience because I was knitting straight from the cone. It had a lot of spinning oils still on the yarn, and I felt like my fingers would get like raw when I was like trying to knit fast, and I think that was like a little bit of the reason why I didn't enjoy this knit as much as I wanted to. Not because of the pattern, but because of like the yarn itself. So if I make this again, I'll probably use either like a super wash, or I'll use something a little bit fluffier to begin with. Like, this is fluffed up quite a bit since I've blocked it, and I soaked it in water for like an hour, and a lot of dye and like spinning oil came out. But I can tell like it's gonna need like 1 or 2 more washes before it really starts to feel good. The sleeves are still pretty like scratchy for me. I tried to wear it without any shirt underneath, and my arms were getting itchy really quickly. So I'm sure after like 2 or 3 washes, it'll feel a lot better. But for now, it's good. And it's still cold enough where I can still wear a long sleeve underneath. But yeah, that's it. Those are all the things that I finished January to March. And I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'm gonna come and show you all of my works in progress. All right, so I was talking about my finished objects forever, and I have so many works in progress still that I'm wondering, like, is it even worth going through all of them? So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna talk about my sweater works in progress, and then whenever I finish some of the smaller things, I will bring them onto the podcast and I'll show you guys everything. So right now I have 5 sweaters slash tees slash camisoles, 3 socks, and 2 shawls, and then a blanket. Woof. Okay, so let's start with the oldest one. This is my Stria cardigan. Let me just take a second and pull it up. This is my Stria cardigan. I love her, and I have hated her so many times. So I started this January 1st, 2022, and I worked really hard on it for about 2 months, took a break, joined the DRK March to May knit along, got 1 sleeve done, took an 8 or 9 month break, and then picked it up again like 2 weeks ago, and I started knitting this again. I was measuring my garment, and according to the pattern, I have like 1 more inch of the body and then I'm done. However, I know that's not gonna work for me. I need to probably knit this like 2, 3, 4 inches longer for it to be like a comfortable length of cardigan for me. And then I do have the sleeve on needles, but I probably will finish the body first and then I'll do the sleeves later. I'm using a cute stitch marker that I got from Hello Lavender. I think it's like the Bee Butts one. And yeah, that's this one. I'm using Knit Picks palette yarn, and the main color is Oyster Heather. And my other colors are Salsa Heather, maybe. Or maybe this is Salsa Heather. I don't know. I'm gonna, these 4 like reddish brownish colors. Okay, so that's this. It's a fingering weight half fisherman's rib cardigan. So obviously I know it's gonna take time. And now that I finished this cardigan, I feel like I can do anything. So I'll probably be able to finish this. It's just a grind. Like I said, for this one, any cardigan is going to be like a grind for me, but this one especially is the grindiest of grinds. Next, the next thing I cast on and like immediately abandoned was my Camisole number 5. This is literally all I've done. Like, it's probably like 4 hours of work tops, maybe less, I don't know. But I have to connect the back and like do basically what I do in the front and the back. It's fine. I just like, I haven't done it in so long, so I don't remember what the pattern actually is. And I'm using Knitting for Olive. I don't remember what the colorway is. It's like elephant gray or like some like grayish purple color. That's what it looks like. Oh, actually, I'm so silly. I can just read it here. Rose Mouse. That's what it is. So this is fine. I do want to pick this up and finish it before the end of summer. Let's manifest. But Stria is going to get done first. Then I'm going to pick this up again and hopefully have this done by the summer because I want to wear it when I go on vacation this summer. Then the next sweater that I have is my Lento sweater. So this is what I'm like most excited about. Just dropped my yarn everywhere. So this Lento sweater, I cast it on like during that Crayabea Aimee Palco knit along, knowing full well I wasn't going to finish it, but I was like, here's a Hail Mary, might as well try. So this is my Lento sweater so far, and I am using these 2 skeins. So the Sari is Sorella yarn in shade Maison, and I believe this is a spring tonal. It kind of looks just like white with like a little bit like bare basically with like a little bit of pink. But this is my first time working with Sari yarn and I love it. And then the fingering yarn that I used is Through the Wardrobe Yarn Co. And this is Rapunzel in the Fairy Tale sock base, so 75/25 superwash merino nylon. This one I got last year from Brothers Grimm Fairy Tale monthly box. So she had released like, I think it was April, May, June, and all the colors were like calling out to me. So I ordered all of them, and I ordered this one in a sweater quantity, and I'm excited to finally be using it. I haven't even used a full skein of the base yarn yet. I have used a full skein of the Sari. I have like this much left of the other color before I can wind up a new skein of the fingering. So I'll probably use 2 and then like maybe a little bit more of the 3rd skein, just because I know with my long arms and all that, I'll probably want a little bit longer body. So yeah, it's really nice knowing that I can get like a full sweater with like less than 3 skeins of yarn, but I will need that 3rd skein, unfortunately. So I'll probably make socks with the remainder of it just because this is so cute. The color is so nice. It's like yellow, light pink, and a little bit of cream with like the tiniest bit of like brown speckling throughout. So yeah, that is this one. So my friends and I, we all knit. We met through knitting, but we stayed because we liked each other and we're now all friends. So this is going to be really hard to see just because it's stockinette and the yarn is curling on itself. Okay, so I am knitting. This is Satsuki by Sari Nordlund, and I found this pattern in the Aimee issue. Where did I put that book? It's here. I bought this at Apricot Yarns in San Diego, and this is Aimee issue 23, fall winter 2021, which was all inspired by films. It should look like this. I don't even know if you can see this photo, so might not have even been worth it, but they're these cute Totoro V's because that's what this sweater is based off of, My Neighbor Totoro. And I finished the yoke. You cast on provisionally, knit each thing like front, back, or no, you do back, shoulders, and then front, and then you join in the round, which is like a unique construction for me because I haven't done it. And it looks super tiny because I crammed it on the like tiniest cable. And I have to do the neckband, which I think will make this look more like a sweater. And then I want to get like 2 or 3 inches of body done before I try it on and see how it actually fits. So this is on like a hold for right now, just because I really want to get progress on my Stria and my Lento before I go back to this. But I want to have this done by like the 1st or 2nd week of June, because my friends and I, we all are making projects with the same yarn, kind of like how the Seattle knitters, they all have like their yarns that they make the same, like same yarn, different patterns, they do that. And we were kind of inspired by that, so we decided to pick this John Arbon yarn. And the yarn that we used is Yarnadelic Sport from John Arbon Textiles, and it is in shade The Beautiful Ones. It's kind of hard to tell on camera what it is, but it is like a taupey grayish color that has bits of yellow, bits of purple, bits of blue, bits of pink kind of woven throughout. And so it really does look like marled. And yeah, this has a really subtle cabling in this pattern that I just really enjoyed doing. I've never knit a yoke faster. I think like I finished the yoke, or when I say yoke, I'm talking about the front part of the design. I finished it in like 2 days, and it was really fun, really enjoyable. And I think this will be a lot nicer to see visually when I finish the neckband. So hopefully next time I come on here, I can get that then. Okay, last garment. This is a really recent test knit that I got accepted into. This is the Uptown Tee by Tori Yu. Oh, ball of yarn just applying. And I am knitting the... It looks like nothing because I put it on the smallest cable ever. I think I'm like on a 16-inch cable or something. And yeah, that's what it's gonna be on until I need a bigger cable. So basically the Uptown Tee, it has like, it's like a raglan tee construction, and it has a really lovely detail on the sleeves. I was gonna say I'll put a photo of what it's gonna look like, but like when my project actually looks like something more than just like a blob, I'll show it to you. But yeah, you can kind of, let me just spread this one part out. You can kind of see this like really lovely texture that's created here. And the yarn that I'm using is Madeline Tosh Point oh, I think. Tosh Point oh, but it's like an 80% merino, 20% mohair base. And the color is fawn, I think. I really like this yarn. I was originally going to use this for the Stephen West MCAL, and then I was like, immediately no. I started the MCAL, I got through like the I-cord cast on, and like I did 4 rows of the initial section. This is like the 2022 MCAL, and then I just like decided not to. It was just something that wasn't enjoyable for me, so I didn't want to keep doing it. So I ripped it out, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting to figure out what to do with this, and I decided I would use it for this tee. It is single ply, and I haven't used a single ply yarn before, but I really like how soft it is. I'm sure it will pill a lot, but I'm guessing that the merino / mohair content will make it a little bit more sturdy. So yeah, that's this one. Does anyone else stick their projects on like a comically small cable? I'm sure everyone does. It's just easier to knit it faster. Okay, so those are all the garments, and I'm gonna very quickly go through the socks. Okay. These are the 3 sock whips that I have. So the first one, I'll just show you the first one I did. I finished 1 sock. This is a sock for my husband. Let me do that. This is a sock for my husband. We bought this yarn when we went on our honeymoon last summer. I think it's called About Berlin and Lana Grossa. I think that's what it is. And then the contrast colors for the heels, toes, and cuffs are this one, like the toe and the cuff, is Satsuki Mountain Surprise Minis. And then the heel here is just like another Sewrella mini that I had. And I have like a million stitch markers because he is taller than me and he has bigger feet than me, which means I have a lot of knitting to do. I have cast on the second one. I ran out of the Satsuki Mountain mini, so I'm just gonna be kind of scrappy, making it a little bit scrappy, and that's okay because he won't mind at all. This is what the yarn looks like. It's kind of self-patterning. But yeah, that is this. Then I have in this lovely project bag, I have another sock. So this one is using Woolberry Fiber Co. I think it's like the natural, very natural base. And I'm doing like a 3x1 rib vanilla sock basically. I started this actually for my Oolong socks, and then the self-patterning slash like the let me show you what the skein looks like. The sock yarn was too busy for the lace work, so I decided I was like gonna just use this for something else. And this is really beautiful as it is. It's kind of like gray purple with like black stripes slash like speckling. And this one I tried out the shadow wrap heel. I got this far and then I don't know why I'm like not working on it, but I think I was just trying to work on garments more. So between this one and my husband's socks, those are what I like usually take with me when I go out, like just to like appointments or when I need to wait for a long time or I just need to be out. I usually bring a sock with me. So I started working on my husband's one. I think I want to finish my husband's sock first because that's been on my needles since like November last year. So I would like to get him those socks sooner rather than later because I've made myself 3 pairs of socks recently, so he can get one now. And finally, the last sock that I have are these self-striping socks. Hold on, let me pull this out. So this is self-striping sock from my friend Sharon. And Sharon is also a dyer. Her channel on YouTube and her Instagram, and her dye company is Reknits. I'm probably saying that wrong. I should have asked her before I came on here how to say it properly. So Sharon, I apologize. I'll get it right next time. This is one of a kind because she made one for each of us, different self-striping yarn. And they're these like really lovely like micro stripes, and each one of us in the friend group has a different color. And so I'm really excited to get these done. Again, these are gonna probably have a deadline of being done in June because that's when we're all gonna see each other and hopefully take photos. This is a 75-25 base, and for this one, I decided to experiment and do a 68 stitch cast on just to see if I can get closer to that perfect fit if possible. So yeah, that's this. And this much I got done in one like afternoon. So if I can focus, I can probably get this done a lot sooner, but I don't know. I'm like, when it comes to like knitting socks, sometimes I really am into it. And sometimes I'm just like, I would rather be doing a garment. So we'll see. I am cautiously optimistic about that. Now, 2 shawls and then I'm done. Really basic Sophie shawl. I started this a little while ago. I have this really lovely fade yarn that I got from Portland. I went to Portland August 2021 for my bachelorette party, and I walked into Pearl Fiber Arts and I saw so many beautiful yarns, and at that time I bought just one skein of this yarn and I was like, yeah, this will be great. I can make a whole top. No, I could not make a whole top. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went online and I bought a second skein of this yarn, this fade yarn. So it goes like purple to pink and then again purple to pink, but I just wound it differently. So I'm planning to make a Sophie shawl. Well, I am making a Sophie shawl. And this is kind of like, if I don't feel like bringing a sock to work, I bring this instead. This one, I just have to remember when to increase. So I usually just like knit until I increase and then I stop. But the Sophie shawl is like easy. You've all heard about it. Everyone on YouTube has made one. This is my first one. And I'm not in like a rush to finish it. I just need something as like a palette cleanser sometimes. And it's really gratifying to just get like 6 rows or 8 rows or however many rows I get done at a time. So that's this one. So this is like nothingness again. So I started the Nicole shawl by Aimee Sher, and this looks like a little like bumblebee looking shawl. It's just like, it has panels of garter and then lace work, garter, lace work, and it's lovely. I started it on a whim because I just wanted something that would grow really quickly, and I finished the first section and then I stopped working on it. I don't know when I will work on this again. Maybe like in the summer sometime, but like right now I don't feel like working on it. So it's going on indefinite hiatus. The yarn, I could not tell you what it is. This is like, I got this in a D-stash and then I lost the label. I think it's on my Ravelry, so I will find that and put the details below. And then this is Bartlett 2-ply Aran weight yarn, and it's in like some natural colorway. So yeah, I just paired these two together. This is a worsted, this is a Aran, and I know it's gonna be like slightly different in texture, but it's a shawl. It'll be fine, like it doesn't matter. I'm not too concerned about like gauge and all that. So that's that. I do have a crochet blanket I'm working on, but it's not like anything to write home about. It's just using Bonnet blanket yarn, and I can talk about that next time, because hopefully by the next time I work on it, or the next time I see you, I would have worked on it, because I started that one really impulsively and then like never ended up picking it up again. Now, quickly, I'm going to talk about my plans for April through June. So my first plan is that I would like to finish all the garments that I showed you in my WIP pile. So that's 5 garments. I want to finish all of them. I think it's doable because a lot of them, like the yokes are done, and for the Stria especially, it's just body, button band, and 1 sleeve, which is doable if I'm consistent. My second plan is that I'm going to finish all the socks that I have. So that's 3 pairs of socks, and I can probably do 1 each month. And since the socks are fairly simple, like either 3x1 rib or stockinette vanilla socks all the way, so I feel like it should be doable. And then this is a stretch goal. I want to finish 1 skein of yarn in each of the shawls that I'm doing. So for the Aimee Sher shawl, I want to finish 1 skein of that yellow yarn, and then for my Sophie shawl, I want to finish the first skein of my fade yarn. So that would be a nice stretch, that would be nice, but if it doesn't happen, no big deal. And then finally, I would like to add a stripe in my crochet blanket. I know I didn't show it to you, but just trust me, there will be a stripe next time, and I will actually show you. I think that should be enough. I don't like to overly plan because I do tend to impulsively sign up for test knits, like the Tori Yu one. And there are a couple that I know are coming down the pipeline that I would like to sign up for and be accepted to. So if that's the case, you know, like at the very minimal, I just want to finish like 2 of the garments that I showed you today, which I think is possible. 1 I have to finish because of the deadline, but the other one, I really just want to get my Stria cardigan done. So now we're going to move on to a bit of life and things that have been going on in my life lately. I work a lot for my job. I work typically like off hours. So since I'm a teacher, but I teach dance, like I don't work during the daytime. I typically work evenings and weekends. So most of my knitting time and meetup time is really like small amounts of time, because typically when everyone else is free, I'm usually working, which can be hard sometimes, but I was able to plan ahead with my friends, and we did a group meetup, and we brought all of our projects that we had been working on for a while, and we took lots of photos, and we got to like just support each other, hang out with each other, and like spend time together. And with these friends, like, so it's Jack, me, Serena, and Sharon. With all of us, like, we just are really supportive of one another with our knitting goals, and they have just been such good friends to me in this past, like, I don't know, I think I've known them for about 9 months. And yeah, they're just great people. I love talking to them about my knitting. I like talking to them about my life, and we got to meet up, and it was just a great time. And unfortunately, like, it took us, I think we had to plan it like almost 3 or 4 months in advance because all of us were traveling at different times. All of us were busy at different times. So luckily we got to make it work, but it was quite a bit of planning to get it to happen. Yeah, I feel like there were quite a bit of yarn pre-orders that happened recently, but I think I'll just talk about that when the yarn comes. I don't really want to talk about like my yarn stash. It's very personal to me. I have bought quite a bit of yarn recently, and I feel like when I get closer to casting it on is when I'll like bring it up and I'll talk about it. So yeah, so I think that's it for now. I will hopefully be back in like 2 or 3 weeks or maybe longer. I haven't figured out what schedule works for me, but I think the next video I post will be a little bit shorter. Maybe I will feel more comfortable talking in front of a camera, but thank you for joining me, and please leave me some feedback if you enjoyed this, if you didn't enjoy this, if there's any areas you would like me to expand on in the future. But yeah, have a great rest of your day, have a great rest of your week, and happy knitting. Bye.